more than 1,000 hospital admissions, 25 surgeries, over $500,000 from public health insurance, more than $20,000 raised through online fundraisers. A child who spent nearly her entire childhood inside hospital walls. But when the records were reopened, specialists found no evidence confirming the genetic condition that had once been publicly announced. Was this a medical tragedy or a story of manipulation that lasted for years?
Millions of worries for the rest of your days.
Olivia Gant was born on June 21, 2010 in Pasadena, Texas, United States, into what appeared to be an ordinary family with her parents and two sisters. Her early years unfolded in laughter and the warmth of loved ones, especially her step-grandfather, Lonnie Gautreaux, who always showed his granddaughter gentle care and closeness. Olivia was remembered as an emotionally expressive child, lively and able to win over anyone who spent time around her. Yet behind that family picture, long-standing fractures existed between her parents, and after many conflicts, the marriage came to an end. Following the divorce, Kelly Turner decided to leave Texas and move to Colorado, taking the children with her, and from that point, becoming the one who directly managed every aspect of their lives, marking a significant turning point not only geographically, but also in terms of control and the direction of the children's future. From the moment the family moved to Colorado, Kelly began saying that Olivia was experiencing numerous health problems, starting with digestive disorders and, according to her descriptions, becoming increasingly complex over time. On social media platforms, Kelly frequently posted updates about her daughter's condition, sharing images of Olivia in the hospital, surrounded by medical equipment and undergoing routine examinations, drawing a community of followers who watched her story with concern and sympathy. Those posts gradually shaped the image of a fragile child fighting day by day. Despite the growing geographic distance and mounting barriers to visitation, her grandfather, Lonnie Gautreaux, continued trying to maintain contact with his granddaughter. In his memory, Olivia was not the image of a weak pediatric patient confined to a hospital bed, but a girl with a vivid imagination, who loved playing with dolls, inventing magical stories, and speaking with boundless enthusiasm. He once shared that, even after enduring prolonged medical interventions, Olivia still held on to her characteristic gentleness and kindness, something that made him feel even more heartbroken when looking back at what happened later. In 2012, when Olivia was just 2 years old, Kelly took her to Children's Hospital Colorado in Aurora to be treated for what was described as severe constipation. Doctors performed an intervention to clear her colon, and according to the initial records, her condition was stabilized. However, only days after being discharged, Kelly returned to the hospital with concerns that Olivia was unable to eat normally and was showing signs of physical decline. From that point on, medical visits became more frequent. The medical team continued prescribing treatment and monitoring her digestive function. But according to Kelly, the therapies failed to produce the expected results. Hospital admissions therefore became increasingly common, forming a growing chain of medical records as the mother repeatedly insisted that her daughter was facing a condition more serious than what the test results indicated. As the digestive issues were described as growing increasingly severe, Public attention toward Olivia intensified with each of Kelly's social media posts. Every health update, every photo taken in a hospital room beside medical equipment or after an examination, drew hundreds of messages of encouragement and shares. Kelly actively documented nearly the entire course of her daughter's treatment, especially the hospital admissions, and posted them online to seek sympathy and prayers. In that context, medical interventions became more frequent in an effort to address what were said to be persistent digestive disorders, as doctors were concerned that if nutrient absorption did not improve, her physical condition could seriously decline. Kelly consistently insisted that every possibility needed to be thoroughly examined, and as a result, Olivia was repeatedly ordered to undergo additional tests, intensive monitoring, and various procedures. Blood draws, IV infusions, and injections appeared densely throughout her treatment records, creating the image of a child seemingly caught in a constant cycle of hospital care, while the story of her health condition continued to spread widely across the online world. Between the ages of 2 and 7, medical records show that Olivia underwent approximately 25 different surgical interventions, including a procedure involving the rerouting of part of her intestine to assist with digestion. After this intervention, her nutrition was primarily delivered through a supportive device placed into her stomach, and from that point on, images of Olivia connected to tubes and feeding bags became familiar in her mother's posts. Beyond the physical concerns, Kelly also announced that her daughter had been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and had a history of seizures, which, according to her, made it difficult for Olivia to express pain or personal needs. Based on this information, Kelly stated that Olivia required long-term medication to control seizures. However, according to later testimony from several physicians, there were times when they believed there was no longer a clear basis to continue that medication because the described symptoms were no longer present. Even so, in the face of the mother's insistence and the ongoing reports of symptoms she provided, the prescriptions continued. Over nearly 5 years, Olivia grew up between hospitals and clinics, with more than 1,000 recorded medical visits, a number that later led many healthcare professionals to question the entire course of treatment she had undergone. By around 2015, when Olivia turned 5 years old, her health story entered a new phase as Kelly began publicly claiming that her daughter had a rare genetic disorder known as MNGIE, a neurological and gastrointestinal condition said to have no definitive cure and capable of significantly shortening life expectancy. According to what Kelly shared on social media and with support organizations, Olivia's condition was portrayed as an uneven battle, one in which her time was limited. This information quickly moved many people emotionally and drew close attention to the family's journey. However, during the investigation years later, medical experts and record reviews found no genetic test results or advanced analyses confirming an MNGIE diagnosis for Olivia. In other words, the illness presented as the primary cause behind the complex course of treatment lacked clear scientific evidence in the records. From the moment the rare disease was announced, Olivia's story spread more widely than ever. The public saw the image of a fragile child facing an uncertain future, while Kelly gradually became a familiar figure in campaigns calling for sympathy and support. After publicly announcing the MNGIE diagnosis, Kelly began seeking financial support to help Olivia fight the rare disease she described as irreversible. On July 27, 2015, a fundraising campaign titled B is for Olivia was created on GoFundMe, and within a relatively short period of time, donations exceeded $20,000, presented as covering medical expenses and other essential needs. At the same time, Kelly continued to post frequent updates about her daughter's health, asserting that despite multiple hospitalizations and medical interventions, Olivia's condition had not improved and was, in fact, becoming increasingly severe. According to her, her daughter was facing an illness with no hope of recovery. The image of a small, gentle girl who continued to smile while connected to medical support equipment deeply moved many people. And when Kelly shared a photo of Olivia at 6 years old, accompanied by a list of things she wanted to do before she passed, a wave of sympathy spread across the United States, turning her story into a focal point of attention and compassion on social media. Thanks to the involvement of Make-A-Wish and several charitable groups in Colorado, the wishes on Olivia's list were gradually fulfilled. One of her most special wishes was to help the police catch bad guys. That dream was quickly embraced by the Denver Police Department with a formal welcome at headquarters, where Olivia was given a custom-made, child-sized uniform, allowed to sit in a patrol car, and invited to spend a day experiencing life alongside officers. Beyond that, she was also named honorary police chief for a day, a moment that deeply moved the local community. Olivia appeared on television and in newspaper coverage, including the Denver Post, which quoted Kelly saying she did not know how much longer her daughter would be with the family.
We can get it to go?
Her innocence and bright smile touched the hearts of many, including law enforcement personnel, who later said they felt honored to have played a part in making Olivia's wish come true. Not only law enforcement, but the Denver Area Fire Department also took part in making Olivia's wishes come true by inviting her to spend a day as an honorary firefighter. She was dressed in a custom child-sized turnout uniform, wore a protective helmet, and rode through the city in a bright red fire engine with its siren blaring in excitement. At the end of the day, Olivia received an honorary certificate as a special keepsake. Those moments showed a little girl overflowing with joy, and it was hard for anyone to imagine that. According to her mother's description, she was facing what was said to be a very serious illness. Kelly continued seeking community support to create lasting memories for her daughter, including a princess-themed party blended with superhero elements, where Olivia took on the role of Bat Princess and joined in imaginative games. The event was covered by a local CBS affiliate and was later revealed to have cost approximately $11,000, entirely funded by donations from individuals and charitable organizations hoping to bring happiness to the young girl. According to what Kelly presented to the medical team, Olivia's condition was steadily declining despite multiple supportive measures. During this period, doctors placed additional nutritional support devices to ensure she could receive sufficient calories, as natural absorption was said to be significantly impaired. However, in August 2017, Kelly announced that her daughter was no longer tolerating tube feeding and described it as a sign that her body was gradually letting go. According to investigative records later reviewed, no medical documentation indicated that Olivia had actively refused nutrition in the manner described. Faced with this situation, the attending physician proposed gradually adjusting the care plan rather than making an abrupt change. But Kelly expressed a desire to move quickly toward end-of-life care. She also requested to sign a do not resuscitate order in the event of an emergency. This proposal raised concern and opposition among several physicians, who stated that there was no clear medical basis to discontinue supportive measures and affirmed that they would continue providing active care if the situation required it. Another physician on the treatment team spoke directly with Kelly and emphasized that there was no confirmed diagnosis in the records indicating a terminal condition or one beyond intervention, and stated that there was no medical basis to stop providing nutrition. He explained that many of Olivia's issues could still be managed with appropriate care, and that continuing supportive measures was necessary to ensure her safety. However, Kelly maintained her position that her daughter was suffering and should be transitioned to hospice care, arguing that her quality of life had become too low. When the attending physicians refused to sign a do not resuscitate order because they did not see sufficient clinical justification, Kelly sought out another doctor until she found one who agreed to approve the request. Following that decision, nutritional support delivered through medical devices was gradually discontinued. According to documents referenced during the investigation, in the first days after transitioning to hospice care, Olivia remained alert and even sang Hakuna Matata from The Lion King with her mother, creating the sense that she still carried her familiar, optimistic spirit. However, once nutritional support was discontinued and the treatment plan shifted to high doses of pain medication to maintain sedation, her physical condition quickly declined. During this period, Olivia was no longer provided food in the usual manner. According to testimony, Kelly only moistened her daughter's lips with a small amount of melted ice cream applied with gauze. When her grandfather, Lonnie Gautreau, came to visit, he saw his granddaughter lying still in bed, appearing extremely fatigued. He later recalled that when she heard his voice, Olivia opened her eyes and said she felt hungry. Kelly immediately objected, stating that her daughter was not fully aware of her condition and could not tolerate food like a typical child, explaining that such statements were a result of her digestive illness and the effects of the sedative medication used during end-of-life care. 2 days after her grandfather's visit, on August 20th, 2017, Olivia passed away at just 7 years old. The initial cause was recorded as intestinal failure, described as a complication of the multiple medical issues she had previously been diagnosed with. The news quickly spread throughout the community that had followed her journey for years. Just 2 days later, Kelly posted a social media message that sparked widespread controversy. August 20th, 2017 will be an absolutely happy day for me. I have seen countless Facebook posts from everyone who is sad and heartbroken over the loss of sweet Olivia, and all day I have wondered why I cannot stop it. I took a picture at 7:36 p.m., and she took her last breath at 7:40 p.m. There were tears, but only for a moment. The post left many people stunned, because until then, the image of a small girl who had endured more than 1,000 medical visits and approximately 25 surgeries had generated a deep wave of compassion across the United States. After Olivia passed away on August 20th, 2017 in Colorado, her family held a memorial service at 9 a.m. on Thursday, August 24th, 2017 at the Rock Community Church in Littleton, Colorado, attended by relatives, friends, neighbors, and several representatives from charitable organizations that had supported her in the final years of her life. According to information from her obituary and local news reports in the Denver metro area, the service carried a solemn yet warm atmosphere, focused on honoring the image of a little girl who loved princesses, superheroes, and always smiled during community activities. Some members of the Denver Police Department and local fire services, those who had once taken part in Olivia's honorary experience days, were also reported to have sent condolences or attended to pay their respects. After the service, Olivia was laid to rest at Seven Stones Chatfield Cemetery in Littleton, Douglas County, Colorado, a private cemetery located near Chatfield State Park. Sources at the time described the family as wishing for a private farewell while expressing gratitude to the community for its support throughout her medical journey. At that moment, the public still believed this was a final goodbye to a child who had endured a long and challenging medical path, unaware that just over a year later, the story would take an entirely different turn. However, the case did not end after the burial. In October 2018, more than a year after Olivia's passing, Kelly once again appeared at Children's Hospital Colorado in Aurora, this time with her older daughter. She stated that the 11-year-old was experiencing severe bone pain and had a history of cancer that had supposedly been treated when the family was living in Texas. Kelly explained that their earlier move to Colorado had been to seek better medical care for both children. However, the physician who received the case noticed that several details in her account did not match the initial records and proactively contacted medical facilities in Texas for verification. The response they received was entirely different. There were no records indicating that the child had ever been diagnosed with or treated for cancer. That moment became the starting point of a comprehensive review, opening the door to serious questions about the entire medical narrative that had previously surrounded the family. When the inconsistencies in Kelly's statements were reported to social services in Douglas County, a comprehensive review was launched. Investigators began examining all of the content Kelly had previously posted on social media regarding her older daughter's health, but found no medical records confirming the serious diagnoses that had been publicly claimed. During this cross-checking process, they took note that one of Kelly's children, Olivia, had died the year before with a complex medical history. The information was forwarded to law enforcement authorities in Colorado, and physicians who had participated in Olivia's treatment began providing statements. Some acknowledged that they had harbored doubts about the accuracy of the reported symptoms and were concerned that the child may have undergone numerous medical interventions based on information that was not truthful. From that point forward, the matter no longer centered solely on suspected false medical claims, but expanded into a criminal investigation into the true cause of Olivia's passing. On November 28, 2018, under a court order in Colorado, Olivia's body was exhumed to allow for a forensic examination as growing questions surrounded her prior medical history. Forensic experts conducted a renewed evaluation. However, the final conclusion stated that the exact cause of her passing could not be definitively determined based on the remaining evidence. During interviews with investigators, Kelly voluntarily stated that her case was not Munchausen syndrome, even though at that time investigators had not directly questioned her along those lines. Munchausen syndrome by proxy is understood as a condition in which a caregiver exaggerates or fabricates illness in someone in their care to gain attention or other benefits. Kelly's early denial drew the attention of investigators. She later admitted to providing false information about her older daughter's health condition, but continued to deny any allegations related to Olivia, maintaining that her younger daughter's medical issues had been real. More than a year after Olivia's passing, as the inconsistencies surrounding her older daughter and the conflicting medical information gradually came to light, Authorities in Colorado formally expanded the investigation into Kelly's role in the entire prior course of treatment. Her continued presentation of another child at the hospital with serious symptoms, unsupported by verified records, became the key factor that prompted officials to re-examine Olivia's death. In late 2018, Kelly was arrested and taken into custody for investigation. In 2019, a grand jury indicted her on charges alleging conduct that resulted in particularly serious consequences for her daughter, asserting that over many years she had provided false information about medical conditions, leading healthcare professionals to carry out numerous interventions based on inaccurate data. In addition, she faced fraud-related charges connected to the Medicaid program and more than 100 individuals and organizations who had contributed to fundraising campaigns, as well as service providers associated with funeral and cemetery arrangements in the Littleton area of Douglas County. During the investigation, 11 physicians who had participated in Olivia's treatment were called to testify, and many stated that there was no evidence Olivia had a terminal condition as described, further asserting that the discontinuation of nutritional support at that time was not consistent with standard medical guidelines. In January 2022, in court in Douglas County, Colorado, Kelly Renee Turner, then 44 years old, accepted a plea agreement to a charge of causing serious harm, resulting in particularly severe consequences to a child, under which the more serious charges previously filed were dismissed as part of an agreement between prosecutors and defense counsel. Both sides agreed to a 16-year prison sentence. At the same time, Kelly also pleaded guilty to fraud and theft-related offenses, receiving a 13-year sentence to be served concurrently with the 16-year term. According to the published prosecution records, over several years she had received more than $500,000 from the Medicaid program based on diagnoses and medical interventions built on inaccurate information, in addition to more than $20,000 from the online fundraiser B is for Olivia, along with other financial support from individuals and charitable organizations in Colorado. Investigators concluded that these payments stemmed from medical records lacking genetic evidence or clear scientific confirmation, as had been publicly claimed. In February 2022, the formal sentence was handed down, nearly 5 years after Olivia's passing during end-of-life care when nutritional support had been discontinued for several days. Judge Patricia Herron also imposed an additional condition: Kelly would not be allowed to receive any future financial benefit related to the case, including from books, films, or media agreements. If any revenue were generated, those funds would be directed to charitable organizations affected by the case. After the sentence was handed down, her grandfather, Lonnie Gautreaux, stated in multiple interviews that if someone at the time had been courageous enough to ask questions and act sooner, the outcome might have been different. The family acknowledged carrying a sense of regret for having trusted the information presented over many years without doubt. Together with legal counsel, Lonnie filed a civil lawsuit against Children's Hospital Colorado, arguing that the facility should have intervened more decisively when irregular signs appeared in the treatment records. The complaint maintained that internal warnings about the risk of medical harm were not translated into timely protective action. Ultimately, the case was resolved out of court through a settlement agreement, and the financial terms were not publicly disclosed. After Kelly was convicted, Olivia's case sparked widespread debate in Colorado and across the United States about the responsibility of the healthcare system in identifying and preventing harm carried out through the exaggeration or fabrication of illness in children, often referred to as Munchausen by proxy. Treatment records showed that only weeks before Olivia entered end-of-life care. Some physicians and nurses had documented concerns about inconsistencies between the reported symptoms and the actual test results. According to investigative documents later released, there were internal discussions within the hospital about whether her condition truly aligned with the severe diagnoses presented by her mother. Some professional notes indicated that the clinical data did not support a terminal assessment, and even suggested the need to evaluate the risk of systemic harm. However, those concerns were not escalated into a formal report to the state's Child Protective Services and were largely handled internally, continuing to be discussed directly with the mother. In a system where parents hold significant authority over medical decisions for their children, caution did not evolve into concrete intervention. Prosecutors later argued that Kelly exploited gaps in coordination among medical providers, particularly in the complex and difficult-to-diagnose field of gastrointestinal disorders, to sustain the medical narrative for years. After the case was exposed, Kelly's 2 remaining daughters were removed from her care and, according to court records, their health stabilized, with the older daughter no longer displaying the bone pain symptoms that had previously been described. Olivia's case did not simply end with a sentence. It left behind a series of lingering questions about responsibility, trust, and the gaps within a system designed to protect children. Looking back at the entire story, what troubles me most is not only what happened to a 7-year-old child, but the fact that warning signs appeared and still were not strong enough to prompt timely action. It is a reminder that sympathy alone is not enough. Sometimes what matters more is clarity. The willingness to ask hard questions when something does not add up, even when the story being told sounds deeply convincing. This case also underscores the importance of coordination among healthcare providers, social services, and law enforcement, because a single weak link can lead to irreversible consequences. I hope that through today's true crime documentary episode, we not only remember Olivia as the little girl once seen in headlines with an innocent smile, but also carry forward the lesson of vigilance and shared responsibility. Thank you for listening to the full story. If you would like to honor Olivia's memory, please leave a comment below. Don't forget to share this video so more people can understand and reflect on what happened. And be sure to like and subscribe so you do not miss the next case. I will see you in the next episode of True Crime Documentary.